Well, a statue of Christopher Columbus has been installed near the White House, and the statue sits outside the Eisenhower Executive Office building. It's a replica of one that was tossed into Baltimore's Inner Harbor back in 2020 against protests of institutional racism. Now, the Trump administration has made an effort to restore the image of the controversial explorer. The traditional view depicts Columbus as a leader of an expedition in 1492 that marks the unofficial beginning of European colonization in the Americas. In recent years, critics have focused on his exploitation of Native people.
Is America a force for good in the history of the world or not?
A statue of Christopher Columbus has been put up outside of a federal office building on White House grounds. This is a replica of a statue that was toppled in Baltimore in 2020 during the George Floyd mass race panic, or racial justice protest, as CNN calls it here. And this is outside the EEOB, Eisenhower Executive Office building. All right, but so outside the EEOB, they have a Christopher Columbus statue that has gone in. And I have to say, this is the White House saying it's proud to honor Columbus, celebrating our nation's 250th anniversary of independence. The White House honors Christopher Columbus's legendary life and legacy with a well-deserved statue on White House grounds. Columbus is the original American hero. This is all from the White House press release on this. A giant of Western civilization, one of the most gallant and visionary men ever to walk the face of the earth. 13-foot-tall statue, copy of the one thrown into Baltimore Harbor by the lunatic iconoclasts of the George Floyd cult. And Clay, this is one of these things that Trump does, and it's really a side quest. Like, this isn't the main. Trump is obviously trying to fix the airports with the TSA. He's trying to win the Iran war. He's got some big things he's working on right now. This is a side quest, but it's a beautiful side quest. Absolutely love this. Standing up for Columbus, putting it on White House grounds, putting the statue up on White House grounds in this way. We were losing so much in this cultural and really this battle over history and the way that history affects our culture today. The explorers, I find that period in history fascinating. And what the explorers did clearly changed the world. These were amazing men. Columbus was an amazing individual and accomplished a tremendous amount. And Democrats hate all of that. And so the fact that they hate it means clearly Trump is doing the right thing here.
For sure. And again, I think whoever is able to set the parameters of historical discussion in this country to a large extent is determining the biggest question, which is America a force for good in the history of the world or not? And as a secondary aspect of that question, is Western civilization overall good for America or not? And good for the world or not? And to me, and for most anybody out there that has ever studied history, the answer is beyond a shadow of a doubt it is. The reason why people have the luxury and the time and the resources and the ability to argue that Western civilization is awful and that America has been a force for evil is largely because the exact opposite is true, and it is the incredible luxury of capitalism, and maybe its ultimate flaw, that it produces so much luxury and so much free time that people have the opportunity to sit around and argue about whether Western civilization and American capitalism is a good thing.
All right, shalom, shalom. It's the brother Shakar here with another lesson through the power and spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakah, Quadash, and double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of the great millstone, from which I learned this truth. Peace and blessings to the house of David, doing his work with all righteousness, truth, and sincerity. And I want to say shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom. Now, I played those couple clips, okay, where it shows, your president, DJ Trump, he lifted up that statue, okay, of Columbus once again, you see? And pretty much it's just an indication, okay, of the mindset, okay, of these devils, man. Okay, that, really, when it comes down to it, they just want slaves. Okay, they want total control. Okay, they want to put, okay, that mark of the beast, which is that chip, okay, under the skin. Again, they want total control. They want total surveillance. Okay, they want to be able to control, okay, all things all the time. You see? Okay, in that one video, okay, it was mentioned, okay, American capitalism was mentioned. So we're not really going to go all the way into that, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on it a little bit, and, going to prove that ultimately, okay, everything leads back to what? These devils wanting total control. Ultimately, it's all about, okay, these devils wanting to get that birthright back. But let me get into it. It says American capitalism is a mixed market economy characterized by private ownership of the means of production, where businesses, see, not the government, primarily decide what to produce, see, and how much to charge. You see, but now when it comes to so-called America, there's a mix of capitalism, okay, and socialism. You see, which is socialism is pretty much government control. But again, ultimately, okay, they want, okay, total control. You see, when you dig deep into the root of things, and this is what they want. Okay, they want the birthright. Now I asked the question. Let me see if because I've heard of Western capitalism before. So I said, is Western capitalism, and let me see. I forget the question I asked. Says, did American capitalism begin with Western capitalism? And this is the answer it gave me. It says Western capitalism did not exactly begin with Western capitalism, but rather evolved, see, out of it. But you see, when you dig into a little bit, let me, instead of just searching for it, I'm just going to ask it again. Where did Western capitalism begin? Or maybe I should say when. It says Western capitalism emerged in several stages, beginning with mercantile capitalism in the 14th century, and reaching its fully developed industrial form in the late 18th to 19th centuries. Now earlier, okay, let me see. Maybe it's gonna go on and tell me here. No, you know what? Let me go ahead and just put it in. The Middle Ages and Western capitalism. You see, it says the Middle Ages didn't have capitalism as we know it, but it is where the seeds were planted. You see, so when it comes to the whole idea of capitalism, okay, that's where it originated from. Okay, the Middle Ages. Now let's look up. Let me see. Let's just put it in. What is the Middle Ages? Listen, this is the Middle Ages or medieval period. It was the era between the fall of the Roman Empire, which is 476 AD, and the beginning of the Renaissance. It says around 1500 AD. So roughly about 1,000 years. And that goes back into the scripture, man. Okay, Revelation, the 20th chapter. Okay, where Satan, okay, the devil, okay, that dragon was bound for those 1,000 years. Basically, you had Jake ruling, man. Okay, Jake, okay, was a known nobility of that time. Even though Jake was going off, nonetheless, they were ruling. Okay, you have the Russian icons. Okay, you can look that up. Okay, proving that, again, Jake was in rulership. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and get it. Let's go to the book of Revelation. Chapter 20 and verse 1. It says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and the great chain in his hand." Now that angel is speaking about Yahweh Shai, and that chain represented captivity, you see. And when it comes to that bottomless pit, it's speaking about Europe, okay, because Europe is not known for what? Having that fertile ground, you see, so it's known as the bottomless pit. It says that he laid hold on that dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. You see, so this takes us to what? Malachi, okay, the first chapter. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and grab that. Let me grab that in the other, in the blue letter. It's the book of Malachi. Just trying to tie it all in together. Malachi chapter 1, and we'll just start off in verse 1. It says, the subheading says, the Most High's love for Jacob. And it says, in the NLT, it says, the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai's love for Israel. But as he loves Jacob, okay, in Israel, okay, who does he say he hates? Well, it's going to tell you. He hates Esau. Listen, the burden of the word of the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai to Israel by Malachi. It says, I have loved you, said the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? See, that's the mindset of Jacob. Okay, even though we're going, ultimately because we're going through all this hell, okay, all these downfalls, okay, being at the bottom, how can the Lord love us? But ultimately that goes back to what? Us just being disobedient. Okay, hey, we're under the curses. Listen, it says, was not Esau Jacob's brother, said the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai, yet I love Jacob. It says, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste, see, for the dragons, see, of the wilderness. Now, ultimately, this is twofold. Okay, this is going to become his future. Okay, so-called America will be a desolate wilderness. You see, but this is also representing the downfall, okay, of the Western Roman Empire, man. Okay, where this damn devil Esau was chased into the Caucasus Mountains, man. You see, he returned to his natural habitat of being that cave beast. You see, and that's also going to be, okay, his future. And ultimately, he's going to be destroyed. Listen, whereas Edom said, see, we are impoverished, we will return and build the desolate places. You see, and they did that through the Renaissance period. Listen, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yoshai of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people, listen, against whom the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yoshai had indignation, see, forever. See, it's not just speaking about the man Esau. No, I'm speaking about the people. Indignation going into what? A righteous anger. So the Lord saying, yes, you're going to build back up, okay, but I'm going to throw it down. See, and that's what's coming. That's what's awaiting Esau. See, he has in his mind that he's going to bring in this new world order, okay, this wicked agenda, okay, of having full control, okay, but he's not going to get it, man. The Lord's only going to allow him, okay, to get so far. So let's go back to Revelation, the 20th chapter. It says, this is verse 2 again. It says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Again, this is the time of the so-called Dark Ages, the Byzantine era. Again, where Jacob's ruling. It says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, see, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed, see, a little season, going into what? The Renaissance, the time of the Renaissance, that little season which, okay, he is in now. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 7, because when you go into Revelation, the 20th chapter, it speaks about two separate, okay, 1,000 year periods. Okay, the millennial reign, which when you read verses 4, 5, and 6, that's a separate 1,000 years. You see, so you got to jump down to verse 7, okay, to get the understanding. Listen, verse 7 says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. You see, and this is speaking about, okay, the time of his rulership, man. Okay, the time where he was going to receive that dominion. And that goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. Matter of fact, let me grab that real quick. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 27. See, I'm going to try to get right to the point. Then let me start off in verse 39. It says, And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. So this is speaking about Esau's blessing. Listen, and by thy sword thou shalt live and shalt serve thy brother. It says, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, it says that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. See, and that happened during the time of King Solomon. Okay, basically King Solomon went off. Okay, and then you had I believe it was Hadad, the Edomite. Okay, that rose up against Israel. Okay, but most importantly during this Renaissance period, Esau took that yoke off the neck that Jacob had upon him. Again, Jacob's ruling during the time of the so-called Dark Ages. But now finally Esau, he's in his full blessing, man. Okay, right now he's in his rulership. You see? But when it comes to that blessing, it's a temporal blessing. You see, and that's what he's fighting for. Okay, he's fighting for that eternal blessing. Okay, but it's not his. It was never his to begin with. Matter of fact, let's stay here in Genesis. Let's go to the 25th chapter. Let's show you that. Genesis chapter 25, and let me see. I'll start off in verse 21. It says, And Isaac entreated the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived, so she couldn't have no children. You see, so Isaac prayed to the Lord, and the Lord heard it. Listen, it says, and the children struggled together within her. It says, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So she went to a prophet. You see, she was asking, well, if this is the blessing, then why am I feeling this way? Okay, because you had the babies, fighting within the belly, man. Okay, it was a discomfort in her. It says, and the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai said unto her, Listen, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. It says, and one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Let me keep reading. It says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, Ishashua, which is wasted away is he, because he lacked that pigmentation. That's why I said it was red like a hairy garment. Now, did he come out all hairy? No. Ultimately, Esau became a hairy man, but what they would do is that they would dye ram skins and such. And basically he resembled, that redness, which is ultimately, the blood, showing through his skin. Again, he lacked, pigmentation, but he came out first. It said the elder shall serve the younger, and ultimately that's what's getting ready to come forth, man. You see, that's why Esau's fighting so hard, for that blessing. Again, but it was never his. It's being explained right here that 2 nations were going to come out of Rebekah's womb. One to be the righteous Jacob, and one to be the wicked Esau. You see, so the Lord had it play out a certain way, where ultimately Esau, he rejects that birthright. Matter of fact, if we keep reading, it says, and after that came out his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, which is symbolic, man. When you're upon somebody's heel, it means you're getting ready to take them over. You see, and that's what's getting ready to happen, man. Ultimately, that represents Yahushai taking down the rulership of Esau. Listen, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old. It says, and Isaac was 80 years old. You see, when she bare them. So basically, Isaac was 60. let me keep going. Even in the subheadings, it says here, Esau sells his birthright. It says, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cutting hunter. That's why Esau, he loves to hunt, man. Now you got Jake that does it too, but they just follow in the ways of the wicked, man. Listen, it says a man of the field. See, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. That's why, hey man, Jake likes to chill, man. Find himself a woman, hey, get himself a little bit of alcohol, okay, watch a movie, man, and then get down, man. That's Jacob. Listen to some music. It says, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. It says, and Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field, see, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. You see, and it wasn't even cooked, man. Okay, that's why now Esau, they like that rare meat, man. That's why they're always ordering, that steak. Okay, that's not even cooked right. It says, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. It says, and Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? So he didn't care, man. He didn't consider, okay, what that was gonna do, to his lineage, man. He took none of these things into consideration. Listen, and Jacob said, swear to me this day, and he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. It says, thus Esau despised his birthright. You see, and that's what the Lord had to play out, man. But ultimately, we read it earlier, man. The elder shall serve the younger. So it was always set up in the spirit, okay, that Jacob was going to receive the eternal blessing, and Esau, he just got a temporal blessing, okay, because he was crying, man. He was crying like a little girl, like a bitch, okay, and ultimately, the scripture says Isaac loved Esau, so he gave him a blessing. But it was always set up in the spirit to work out that way. Matter of fact, let me get this in the book of Hebrews, because it's going to tell you. Hebrews, let me see, what is that? Chapter 11, I want to say around verse 20, 21 maybe. Verse 20, it says, by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau. Listen, concerning things to come. In the NLT, it says, it was by faith that Isaac promised blessing. Listen, for the future of his sons, Jacob and Esau. Okay, concerning things to come. Okay, because the scripture ultimately tells us what? That Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Let's go back to Revelation 20, and I'll read verse 7 again. It says, and when 1,000 years were expired, Satan shall be loosed, see, out of his prison, and he shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. Gog, see, well, it should read Gog of Magog, so Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea. And that's where we're at now, man. Ultimately, it's going to be the rise up, the rise up of Russia, man, to have that mindset of the Soviet Union, okay, where it's going to pretty much, destroy America, man. The book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter says that, Gog is going to be a guard, okay, unto these nations. Okay, which basically is going to be the downfall, okay, of so-called America and the land of Israel. You see, you're going to have these nations, okay, come together, okay, and shoot their arrows, their missiles, okay, upon so-called America, Babylon the Great, and the land of Israel. You see, so it's just in the mindset of Esau, okay, to try to get back that birthright, okay, but it was never his. So let's go back. Let me see. Right. It says the Middle Ages. Let's go back to right here where I was looking at the AI mode. It says the Middle Ages or medieval period was the era says in European history, between the fall of the Roman Empire, it says 476 AD, and the beginning of the Renaissance, around 1500 AD. So again, that's that 1,000-year period, man. Okay, where Esau, okay, went up into those caves, man. Okay, where the Lord imprisoned him. But right now he's in his little season, you see, and he's deceiving the world. But hey, we're at the end, man. Okay, we're getting ready to see the downfall of this wicked devil. But ultimately, is what they want. Okay, they want to enslave the people, man. Okay, they want that new world order agenda. Let's look up Renaissance real quick. It says the Renaissance, it says 1300 to 1600, it says was the fervent rebirth, listen, of European culture, art, and learning originating in Italy and transitioning from the Middle Ages to modernity. Listen, it emphasized humanism, realism in art, and scientific inquiry, producing masters like Leonardo, da Vinci. It says key drivers included the printing press, exploration, and classical revival. Revival of what? Listen, it says right here in the definition, means rebirth. The Renaissance, focusing on the revival, listen, of classic Greek and Roman learning, literature, and art. And that's what we're seeing now, man. The revival of that little horn that was wounded to death, man. Let's grab that real quick. That's Revelation 13 and verse 3. Listen, and I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death. Speaking about what the Western Roman Empire that fell. It says, and his deadly wound was healed. The Renaissance. And all the world wondered after the beast. You see, and that's what we're seeing today, man. Okay, and that's through what? The deception, the witchcraft. Okay, everything that the beast system ushers in, man. Again, ultimately, okay, they want that birthright back. They want total control. But again, the Lord's only going to allow them to get so far. Let me go back. There was one more other thing that I wanted to get from here, and then I think that's it. You know, the point's been made, man. This devil's he's not gonna win. Let me see. Yeah, I asked the question earlier, let me ask it again. It said, did the Romans and Greeks apply capitalism or socialism? It says neither system existed in the modern sense, as capitalism and socialism are 19th century industrial concepts. However, both civilizations use elements, that resemble parts of each. Let me see. Right here. It says the real driver, listen, was clientelism and slavery. Listen, the economy wasn't built on free labor or capital investment in technology. It was built on land ownership and exploitation of enslaved people. It says wealth wasn't usually reinvested to grow a business capitalism, but spent on political influence and public spectacles. Real quick, what's clientelism? Clientelism. Let's see if I can get that real quick. Let's just define that real quick. It says clientelism is a political or social system based, listen, on an unequal personal exchange where a patron, politician, leader provides goods, services, or special favors to clients, voters, supporters, in direct exchange for political support, such as votes or loyalty. It says it is a transactional particularistic relationship, often characterized by favoritism, where resources are distributed to specific individuals rather to the public. It says rather to the public based on need. So the key is, slavery, man. Okay, this is what they want. Okay, they want total control, man. You see? Let's get that word slavery. We know what it means, but let's get it anyways. Listen, slavery is the forced labor and ownership of individuals as property, depriving them of personal liberty and self-determination, often under threat of violence. Listen, it is characterized by total control over a person's life and work, historically spanning eras, from ancient civilizations to the transatlantic slave trade. So when you get down to it, this is their mindset, man. Okay, they want to enslave, the people, especially when it comes, to Israel. You see, but we know through the scriptures, it's not going to happen, man. Again, this devil's only going to get so far. So with that, Lord willing, this lesson will edify. I'm going to close out and give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash, and double honor to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of the Great Millstone, from which I learned this truth. Peace and blessings to the house of David, doing his work with all righteousness, truth, sincerity. And I want to say shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom.